Welcome, Dominic Hernon from Global UK. Welcome to the Art of Leverage interviews, and thanks for coming on and giving us your time. Can you tell us a little bit about what Global UK does?
Yeah, so we set up in February 2020, so we've been going for 3 years now. Essentially, we're commercial insurance brokers focusing on all aspects of insurance. There's very little we don't do really. Our sort of bread and butter is commercial-based insurance. So your property owners' portfolios, your businesses, manufacturers, motor trades, fleets, haulage, and we're a one-stop shop. So what we like to do with our clients, implement all the covers. We don't just like to, look after the fleet and then other parts of the covers are placed elsewhere with a different broker. We're very much a one-stop shop, and we pride ourselves on service-led business.
Excellent. So what makes I know insurance is a big subject, and what's the next biggest issue that people are going to have with insurance?
I think people sort of got a bit of a scare, and it was a massive testing exercise for sort of brokers and relationships when COVID hit.
Yeah.
So we set up in February, and obviously we had the lockdown in the March.
That was good timing.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people said that when we set up, and there must have been a lot of fear. Luckily, the business partners that I had around me were experienced. We devised a plan, and we actually reached out to a lot of prospects. Naturally, we didn't have a book of business. We were starting from scratch. So for us, lockdown was a blessing in disguise, because what it did was it outlined to our potential clients, prospects at the time that became clients, potentially not getting the service they desire off the broker. A lot of brokers put their head in the sand. They were having to deliver bad news about business interruption not being covered. Obviously, there was a lot of that in the press. Certain things said by the government about your insurance reacting when, in fact, a lot of policies, didn't cover it. But the point I'm trying to get across is it was a difficult time for clients, and a lot were disgruntled. So we managed to actually reach out to a lot of clients. We did almost a free review at the time.
Right. Okay.
And we managed to pick quite a lot of business up. So it sort of it set us off really. So I think that, in answer to your question, I think that's a big concern for a lot of clients is business interruption now. A lot of businesses were put out of business, unfortunately, especially in the leisure sector when COVID hit. And I think they're now overcautious, and they're thinking, should anything else arise, are we covered for business interruption? So I think that's a massive trending topic.
Yeah, especially the hospitality and retail sector got hit so bad, didn't it?
Yeah, they did. And I think, in fairness to a lot of insurers, they had sort of contagious disease exclusions in the business interruption, which essentially meant, it wouldn't react. There was a couple of insurers that did, in fact, pick it up. But I just think it was that uncertainty from potential clients of ours at the time who didn't know if they were covered, they potentially couldn't get hold of the broker, and they wanted, discussion, and that opened the doors. So I think, the chance of a global pandemic happening again, touch wood, is extremely rare, but there's certain other aspects that could interrupt a business's performance.
So, one of the things that's bandied around a lot at the moment is cyber insurance. Is that becoming a big worry for businesses?
Yeah, I think cyber has been, I don't want to say trending, because I think it's a cover that's going to remain, just the way the world's going. And a cyber and an online presence is key to the vast majority of businesses. This was outlined when GDPR was obviously implemented. There's certain laws and legislations now as a business owner, especially with an online presence, that you have to follow. So we get asked about it a lot more. But I think we also proactively suggest it to our clients as well. I think gone are the days where you look at a business and think the bricks and mortar are the priority. What happens if it burns down? What happens if there's a leak? Yes, of course, these things are still prominent, they still happen. But I think, in fact, when you look at most issues, most claims now arising, especially in retail-led businesses, that the cyber exposures, I'd say, just as great.
Yeah, I had run a small business on my own in the past, and I've had my website completely hacked. I was fortunate enough that I could just shut it down and it didn't make any difference to me. But you know, people think it probably won't happen to them, won't they? I'm not
Yeah.
it's not my data. Why would anybody bother?
I think the businesses that we've found that are proactively looking to work with us when we suggest it to some clients, and you know they do have that attitude. Potentially, it's not going to happen to us, and we have to educate them, give them claims examples. But some of the larger businesses, especially with the online presence, online retailers, have actually had a few near misses or previously had an incident. And those are the ones who are like, actually, we've seen what this could have done to our business. We had a lucky escape last time. Let's get it in place.
Yeah, I think you know the I don't think it'll happen to me. Attitude will probably change in time, but it's every. I even had my fantasy football league hacked.
Well,
Somebody just went into it and changed my team,
yeah.
and I only realised it had been done because I got only 2 points that week. But people just do it because they can, don't they?
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, yeah, and you know, these criminals now they don't even have to leave the bedroom, and they cause as much destruction as they could if they set a light to a building. Um, so yeah, I think it's a lot more prominent now. I think you know that a certain aspect of focus has now switched to cyber, and especially for, I mean, I think if you're a business and all your income solely derived from online retailing and trading, I'm absolutely baffled if they wouldn't take cyber insurance because that's the main risk.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So why should I've always gone through a broker, so I know why I should go through a broker. But those are people who don't. Why should they go through a broker and not try and sort it out themselves, their insurance?
I guess that question's subjective to the requirements. You know, if you're a business is obviously going to need a broker. There's no no two ways about it. We get a lot of calls from clients who've got a run-of-the-mill vehicle and they want some advice. And I will make it clear to our clients, you know, the aggregators online are there to, they're not there to advise you, they're there to put your prices in chronological order. They won't advise you. There's no expertise given, there's no advice given. So that as an example is an aggregator. They're not going to help you with your business. To use a broker, you're getting expertise, you're getting a face-to-face service, claims handling as well. You know, I often say to certainly SME smaller clients who they have facilities out there where they can just type in the details online, same way as you would have compared the market. And there's an analogy: would you go into a divorce without a solicitor or someone representing you?
No.
Definitely not. And I often say the same with claims. You know, if a claim arose, you know, who are you going to ring? Are you're going to get through to an online call center? Your business is going to be down for a lot longer than it potentially would if you had a broker. And where would you start? And the answer is I don't know. So I think a massive emphasis has to be on claims.
I think I mean the way I look at it is if I'd gone direct to an insurance company, the insurance company's acting on their behalf.
Yeah.
Whereas if I go through a broker, the broker's acting on my behalf.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The way I always look at it.
I mean, the aggregators do have a place without a doubt.
Yeah.
On certain criteria, and especially for people who are quite knowledgeable, who know what they're looking for. But you can get tripped up, and you know there can potentially be cases where claims aren't paid because you've missed something in the small print, or you know one that we often see. We have prospects ring us. Again, it's not target business for us, isn't it? The personal lines, it comes as an accommodating cover. But we have had clients where they've rung us and said, oh, you know, we've had an online policy. We've switched banks and we've changed our direct debit. We haven't told our insurer that we did Fire Go Compare. The insurance automatically cancelled and we've been pulled over and we've been issued 6 points for driving without insurance. Obviously, there's an obligation for the client to know that they've changed the bank. You know, there's no getting away from that. But you are dealing with a machine and it's very much computer says no. So, for example, if that had happened with us, we'd get either the insurer if they put it on their direct debit or our third party finance providers would ring us and say, hang on a minute, that payment's not successfully gone through. Do you want to contact your client? And, it's examples like that where it's a service and a relationship.
What makes you different from other brokers out there, do you think?
You know what? It sounds quite cliche, but I've always said sort of passion and desire. For us, and I think especially being a business in its infancy, but we have the support from the larger group and their expertise and knowledge and experience. I just think desire to do well and appease our clients and service standards. We're always on the other end of the phone. My phone's always on. I'm always willing to take calls. And yeah, just the hunger that we hold.
What's
I think another thing to sort of add to that as well, in terms of our team, we're a team of 8 now in Leeds. And myself, I'm from an underwriting background as well. So
unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, you know what, it is, and it's a good feather in my heart, I believe, because I've sat on both sides of the table. So when a client's potentially disgruntled or they can't understand why an underwriter's imposing certain terms, conditions on the policy, premium increases, I can actually empathise on both sides. Obviously, we're there to act on behalf of our client, but I can also educate them as to why they're doing that, the reasons behind it, and often soften the blow for the client.
Yeah, there's not many. I've only come across 2 people ever who are insurance brokers who have been underwriters or involved in that side in all my time of networking, which is 20 plus years. So it is a big plus to have somebody who can see both sides of the fence.
Well, it's funny you mentioned cyber. We spoke about that being a trending topic. The underwriters that I work for was a large American firm, and I was part of a financial lines department. So I was sort of knew about cyber or learned about it certainly before it started trending, which really sort of set us apart when we set the business up as well, because I was quite familiar with wordings, terms and conditions in the policy, and we were able to present it to our client in efficient ways.
So what's the best result you've ever had for a client? Or maybe how you've really put yourself out to help a client?
You know what, on a personal level, and one thing that I've learned to do in business over the years was never leave a door shut. Right. So there was a case recently, extremely large fleet based in West Yorkshire, over 100 vehicles on the fleet, which naturally carries, high premium, takes a lot of servicing. And we didn't win it last year through various reasons. Kept in touch with the client throughout the year after not winning the business, offered impartial advice. I never set out to badmouth another broker. I'll never slate them, because I think you're more tactful than that. And I think if you're good at what you do, you shouldn't need to.
No, anyway, I 100% agree.
And I don't think it puts you in a good position with the client. And often cases of this size, the owners of the business are, they've been around a bit.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to, sniff out the good from the bad. Anyway, kept in touch throughout the year. I reached out to him 6 months prior to renewal. So 6 months after not winning the business, said, look, I want to come in for another chat. Let's sit down. Let's have a discussion. And we did. And I won the business the following year.
Brilliant.
And I think, and it's a substantial size account. And I think the moral of the story is, I see it as a bit like a football game. So if you've not started, you're not starting 11. You've got a point to prove. You potentially sat on the bench, but your time's going to come. And I think that case really outlined that. And I think if I'm totally honest with you, Ewan, looking back 5 years ago, would I have been that? Would I have looked at the bigger picture like that? Would I have spat my dummy out? Probably. So that personally, more than anything, was a real learning curve.
I think it's better to, for me personally, it's better to be second on the list than not on the list at all.
Yeah, 100%. And your time's going to come.
And sooner or later the incumbent person might annoy them, not be price sensitive or whatever. And if you're second on the list, you're the next person they're going to call if something goes wrong.
And I think what that did was when it came around for the following tender, when we won the business, I think you almost put yourself in a better light, because the focus shifts from, okay, we're price driven, we want the best price, to actually, you proved yourself, you've not earned anything for the last 6 months, you've come out, you've sat with us, you've given us impartial advice. You know what, the emphasis isn't as much on the price now, it's the service, and can you continue to deliver that once we're on board. So I think to take that shift away from premium to actually you're really good, your service is outstanding, premium comes secondary, I think that's a fantastic position to be in.
Yeah, and you know, quite often we don't actually want customers who just buy on price anyway.
No, definitely not. And I think I always have an honest conversation with my clients. We get in touch 6 weeks prior to renewal to have a sort of informal chat. How are things going? Any major changes planned? How's your year panned out? And then once we get sort of 4 weeks ahead of renewal, we have serious chats. Look, what are your intentions? What do you want to benefit this year? Are you price driven? Are you putting it out to market? You know, are you wanting to speak to other brokers? And I think just get your cards out on the table.
Do you think, and it's not trying to be critical, do you think some brokers, when they've got a client that they've had for a while, get a little bit lazy?
Yeah, I think that happens. You know, a few of our success stories are from, you know, the case that I mentioned just then. I think they've been with the broker for around 20 years.
Right.
I don't think, I think what it is, I think a lot of the time it's a case of the clients getting complacent as well as the broker.
Right. Okay.
You know, I think the client can be comfortable and think, actually, we're getting a good service. I'm not bothered what else is out there. And I've always said, if you're on top of your game and you're doing your job efficiently as a broker, you should know if there's anyone else going to come in, that they're not going to come back and say, look, we've got something 20-25% cheaper, because you've tendered the market, you've done your job. You might get the odd broker that comes in and decides to reduce commission, so they can potentially say to a prospect, look, we can get the same product as your current broker. I know the commission rates are X, Y, and Z. Why don't we half them and we'll work for less? Now, again, if your client values your service, they should be able to see through that and think, hang on a minute, we're just working for less. There must be a reason for it. So yeah, I think in terms of complacency, it's massive on both parts.
So what would you say was inspiring about what you do at Global UK?
I think the relationships that we have with the clients and continue to have. There's a lot of decent new business people out there. They are relatively hard to come by, but the real challenge of a broker, I've always said, is producing the new business and being able to continue looking after that client. We don't want to do a conveyor belt business where they're on at one end, coming off the other, then we're replacing them with another new client. So in answer to your question, I think retention's massive for us. We've got an extremely high retention rate.
Brilliant.
And obviously that means your business continues to grow, because as well as converting new business, you know, we're keeping everything as well. So it's
what changes, challenges, or successes do you see coming about in the next 12 months?
There's a lot of acquisitions out there, a lot of other businesses getting bought. I think that it's a double-edged sword, because a lot of the businesses that potentially get acquired can have access to other schemes, they can get better commission rates once they're bought by a bigger firm. But I think that also keeps us in a really, really good position, because we are who we are. We run Leeds the way we want to run Leeds, and we are able to integrate with our clients accordingly. So I think in terms of what challenges do we see moving forward, I think it's probably the larger businesses coming in and acquiring others.
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm based just outside Liverpool, and I know there's been a few bigger brokers here bought out by other firms. They've still got the managing partners in, but it's if they're on a much less percentage.
Yeah, exactly.
So if this is a random question, if you could give any new business owner a piece of advice, what would that advice be?
I think tracking your business is extremely important, and that's something when I started, you caught up in the moment and you've got bills to pay. You're throwing everything on and you're focusing on month to month. So we do something internally, which is a forecasting process, which we review every month. Extremely well put together document by our finance director, and what that allows us to do, it's got algorithms in and certain systems in place where we can alter things, and it changes your projections for the following financial year. So I think tracking is extremely important, and planning ahead. It's the biggest tool that you've got.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on the Art of Leverage interview.
No worries. Thank you for having me.